Hi, I'm Heather from Heather Handmade, and today I'm going to teach you how to move the shoulder in on a blouse or a jacket. This is great for if you have narrow shoulders, and if your bust size or your hip size is larger than your shoulders, it really helps get a nice fit in your shoulders. This is not for taking in really large items to be your size. This is to make something that is very close to your size just fit better in the shoulders. This project is for a set-in sleeve, so that means you can see an actual curve on this sleeve seam. It curves out under the armpit and it comes up higher on, it kind of is an oval shape up to the top of your sleeve. It comes up over your shoulder. That is called a set-in sleeve, and that is what we are going to move in today. That's what this tutorial is about. This is not for a drop shoulder, which when you look at a drop shoulder, it's kind of like it looks straight and it's kind of hanging off the shoulder. It comes off the curve, and I don't really recommend using this method for a dropped sleeve. If you are doing a drop shoulder, you just have to approach it in a different way instead of the way that we are approaching it today. Now, if you're doing this alteration for a jacket, you most likely will have a jacket and a lining inside, so you will need to move the sleeves in both on the jacket and on the lining, and you have to take, open up the lining somewhere, go in there, turn it right side out, move the sleeves in, so that's 4 sleeves to move in, and then turn the jacket right side out and close that opening. Moving in a set-in sleeve is really for if you have narrow shoulders, if you have a larger bust, if you have larger hips, if you need less space in your shoulders than you do in other areas of your body. That's why you would move in the sleeve. This is not for buying something that is much larger than your size and taking it in, because there's a lot of details like darts and button plackets and necklines that you don't want to have to redo. This is really for an alteration to make something that fits something down here, part of your body, and you just need the shoulder moved in. I have put the blouse on, and now I'm going to teach you how to mark where you want the sleeve to move. I am using tailor's chalk. This is my preference for marking. Use the tool that you like the best. And when you're feeling your shoulder, it's a little tricky to do it on your own, but you can. So when you're feeling your shoulder, there is a bone that pokes out at the top. So right here, it's muscle, and then there's a knobby bone, and then there's, coming down. So this knobby bone, I don't know what part of your body that is, but that is where the edge of that bone, that knobby part, that is where you want the sleeve to start. That is a classic spot for set-in sleeves. So that is where I'm going to mark with my tailor's chalk. So I'm making a line like this, and if I bend down, let me move my hair. If I bend down, you can see this is my chalk line, which means I'm moving the shoulder in 1/2 inch. That's just a small amount to move the sleeve in. When you are going to move the sleeve in, here is a diagram that I will show you what I'm doing. There is the curve of the sleeve, and if you move the top part of the sleeve in, if you see that I'm moving that in, then it actually makes the armhole larger. So often, to make the sleeve fit back in, you need to take some amount in that is under the arm to make that sleeve fit. So as you can see, I do have a little bit of extra room right here under my arm. This is a it's not a fitted style. It is kind of a loose fit, but I still think I have a little bit extra under the sleeve. So most likely if I'm doing 1/2 inch under here, I will do a 1/2 inch just on the bodice to take that in, and I will taper out to the hem, and the sleeve shape and size will stay the same. So I'm measuring my mark on this side, and it is just under 1/2 inch. So I'm going to transfer the mark to this side. And it's a little bit harder on this side because it's right in the middle of that embroidery. Now that I have marked both shoulders, I'm going to remove the sleeve completely. I am going to use a seam ripper, and this is the longest part of the process because you have to seam rip the sleeve, and it takes a while, but this is what you have to do. So now that I have removed the sleeve, I am going to try pinning the sleeve in without sewing anything to see if it fits with the shoulder being raised up slightly. Now, when you are sewing, when you are altering the shoulder, sometimes you don't know exactly what the shapes are going to be once you unpick it. Sometimes you will need to take in under the arm. Sometimes you might need to take in the sleeve slightly. It really depends on the person's body and the actual garment, because it's really different between each item. This is the top of the sleeve cap right here, and I'm going by the curve of the shape curve. So I'm going to line up this seam line, that's where the stitches were, with this new mark right here. So I'm putting that seam line right there on the chalk mark that I created. So I'm essentially moving this in just a little bit. And I'm going to pin that in place. So as you can see, there is actually a line of stitching up here that didn't come out, and that is the ease stitch. You know, when you sew a stitch and you just ease in a set and sleeve. I'm going to leave that in because I still want the sleeve cap eased. After I have that one pinned, I'm going to see if the rest of the sleeve fits in. So I'm looking at the inside. This is the sleeve hole. So you're going to have to adjust this curve because you moved it in. And usually I get back to the regular hole down here at the bottom of the curve, and I just move in at the top. So right now I'm just kind of pinning it in to see if the sleeve will fit, just moving it and not sewing the side seam. It's just, you know, to test it out. So this sleeve actually has so much ease at the top that I don't need to take in the side seam at all. If anything, I would need to take in the sleeve seam because it's so much bigger, but it's going to work. So I am just going to sew this in like this, leave the ease up here at the top and moving it in, and re-sew this seam and then serge the edge, which means I'm cutting off that excess. Now I'm going to use the same seam allowance as before. I'm actually just going to be following the stitch line on the sleeve, and then when you get around to the top of the sleeve, it's moved in on the blouse, but you're still following the same seam line. So as you can see, this part of the sleeve is moved in. This is the extra part of the blouse, but I'm still following the same seam line. And when I'm up at the top, you kind of have to make sure that the sleeve is still eased. I pinned it all in place, but you don't want any tucks or little gathers to form. So you have to, you know, watch what you're doing. I've sewn the sleeves back in and I've serged the edges. I would recommend that you press that seam allowance out towards the sleeves to give that cap a nice look. Now the sleeves fit in the right place. That seam is hitting me right at that knobby part of my shoulder. And now I have a shirt that fits really well in the shoulders, and it's still a semi-fitted look. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'm glad you were here. I can't wait to see the shoulders and sleeves that you alter to help it fit you better. I hope you have a wonderful day.